I want to talk a little bit about modulation in this video. It's an often overlooked subject, and I think it's important to understand how to seamlessly modulate a tune. In this case, we're going to modulate up by minor seconds or semitones, and we're talking about the tune Mack the Knife. Now, you may think you've already got this one covered, but I would stick around to the end. There's a couple of things that I think you're going to want to know. The tune is fairly simple. It's just 16 bars, but if you take a look at the second time ending, we're transitioning from the key of C into the key of D flat at B section. And the most likely chord to use to make that transition seem not abrupt and seamless would be to use the 5-7 chord of D flat. So that would mean an A flat 7, but there's a couple of different usages here. So the first one would be to just play a straight A flat 7 chord. So let's start on bar 18, and then in a couple of bars we'll modulate to D flat. So that's one chord using the A flat 7. The other thing that I like to do sometimes is put an A flat sus chord in front of the A flat. Think of the A flat sus like G flat over A, or G flat major 7 over A. So let's try that from bar 18. So using two chords instead of one. I wouldn't use a 2-5 of D flat. I would stick to 5 in the bass and then either use a sus chord or a 7th chord, or both in sequence. Let's listen to a little bit of that transition. I recorded this at the piano a little bit earlier with bass and drums. Let's listen to the first few bars. So what I think is interesting about that introduction is that it actually uses the 5-7 chord, in this case 5-7 sus, to make its way into the key of C. So like this. And then play a 7th chord, and then you're into the tune. Just like we were talking about, let's move to the transition between the key of C and the key of D flat, and let's see how that sounds. Interesting, right? It's almost like the transition never happened from C to D flat. It's almost imperceptible. Obviously, we have big ears, so we hear the transition. What I did there was I didn't even use an A flat 7 chord. I actually stayed just to the sus chord. So G flat major 9 over the A flat. The next transition is 2 choruses later. It plays 2 choruses in D flat and then transitions to the key of D. So then you're talking about another 5-7 of 1, so 1 being D major, key of D major, and then the 5-7 chord is A7, and I've put a sus chord in front of that. That's A sus to A7, like this. But in the recording that I did earlier, I'm well into a solo, so you have to transition during the solo. So let's listen to that. So that's interesting. You're transitioning from the key of D flat major to D, but you're doing it during a solo. So what I would suggest is the same A pedal going to D, except find ways to play some bebop lines there. And we're well into D at that point. There's one more modulation in this tune, and it happens between the key of D and the key of E flat at letter D. And again, it's the same process, you take 5/7 of E flat, you get a B flat chord, and if you want to put a chord in front of that, you would put a B flat sus chord. Let's listen to that in the recording. It's interesting, I used some kind of bebop line there. I can't really duplicate that on the spot, but if you think about it, it's simply a 5/7 chord of the destination chord, which is E flat. So we're in the key of D, and then you're talking about a sus chord over B flat to B flat 7. So going back to D. So have fun with that. Think about 5/7 of the destination chord, and you can't go wrong in your next modulation, even if you're moving up a whole tone instead of semitones. But the tune is Mack the Knife, and we have to be aware of the traditional modulation, which is in semitones. One thing I did want to do, just for fun, is play a little bit of my solo over D major. Now, D major is one of those keys that jazz pianists are not that familiar with. But I think it's fun because it sounds quite a bit more tonal than some other keys. Let's listen to that solo. Let me know in the comments below what you think of these modulations, and if you have any questions, you can put them there as well. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you've not done it already. And if you're looking for more ideas on how to play great jazz piano, I did a video recently on a bossa nova called Black Orpheus. You might want to check out that video next.